How is esports managed in the UK? Who is accountable to the government? Does the government have laws and legislation covering esports? And just who is the UK esports team committee? This week we're looking at an overview of the UK esports industry to summarise our first area of Unit 1 on the channel. Welcome back, Adam here. It's been a while since we've covered some of these Unit 1 topics, so if you've missed some of those you can see our playlist on Unit 1A up here at the top using the card. You probably also noticed I have a cold, so if this video sounds quite nasal, I do apologise. I'm trying my best to recover. This video is going to be separated into 3 sections, and we're going to do it like this. We're going to describe the structure of UK esports in terms of accountability and stakeholders, giving you an overview and a nice diagram so you can use this in things like assignments or as a reference to help you to explain what you're trying to get across. Next, we're going to make some light comparisons to the structure of sport in the UK to esports as well, and we'll be doing more videos of this in the future if that's something that you would also like to know about. Finally, we're going to use these pointers to then evaluate the current states of esports in the UK and come to some conclusions and opinions about how perhaps it should be similar, or in other ways different, to how sports is run. So let's look at the structure of esports in the UK as a whole. We'll put a diagram on screen now that we've made just for this video to help out. Anything that occurs domestically essentially means that it occurs within the UK ecosystem. Any boxes that we show you that are blue during this video, things that occur internationally. So these would be things that would either split Great Britain into its constituent countries, or would be related to things that occur internationally elsewhere in the world. At the head of everything, we've got the UK government, and it's quite an interesting one that we've chosen to do this. The reason we put the government at the top is because essentially all business in the UK does eventually answer to the government in some way, whether it's through paying tax, whether it's through things like compliance or anything else along those lines. So we do put the UK government at the top. The main part of the government we're concerned with though is the DCMS, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. Video on those is shown at the card at the top of the screen right now. And these guys are essentially the main keeper for anything to do with the categories that are in their name. You can see that some of the arrows that are coming from the DCMS are different colours, and that's quite important because the way that accountability works in the UK for esports is, we wouldn't say complicated, but because of the fact that we've said a few times now that esports isn't classified as a sport in the UK, it's rather classified as a game. It means that it affects ways that the governing body of esports, or national governing bodies, if they existed, would actually operate. So we can see on the diagram we've got the British Esports Federation, and we've got a green arrow going from them up to the DCMS. The British Esports Federation is, in fact, a national body for esports, and is therefore not a governing body. And so they actually hold no real power over the esports scene in the country, but instead act as the main driving force to help promote it at the grassroots and in other areas as well. And this is quite interesting because then it makes it completely different to sports like football, where they have the Football Association, who are a governing body and so can set rules, regulations and other things, being the sort of standard bearer for their sport, and able to penalise players that participate in leagues and things that are related to it. The British Esports Federation can do none of those things. Within the British Esports Federation, while we're here, we should note that we've got Esports Northern Ireland, England, Women in Esports, the National Performance Campus Sunderland, and the Student Championships. British Esports was previously the British Esports Association, and so through their expansion they've actually become the Federation, especially where Northern Ireland and Esports England are concerned, as they operate underneath and within that branch. While we're on the topic of the country-related esports councils, we should say that Wales and Scotland have their own separate companies, and interestingly, Esports Scotland is quite different to the British Esports Federation. You can see some information about Esports Scotland on their own website. We'll not put that in this video, but we'll leave a link in the description if you want to go read that. Esports Wales is much more similar to British Esports. while we're looking domestically then, let's have a look at the left of the table. We've got books on there. They are actually a national governing body, which does complicate things a little bit. They are related to university and college sport in the UK, and they are officially the governing body of it. Interestingly, the NSE, the National Student Esports Body, has a vested interest from books. And even though NSE is a company which is registered as a for-profit company, it does receive money from part of the books sort of family, where that means that actually it is technically accountable to books. This is quite interesting because that's sort of, there is some investment therefore coming from the government, because books does get their money from the DCMS. I mean, after all, they are a national governing body. But esports isn't a sport, so this investment that's seen from the books is actually more private than public, which makes it quite a unique situation. We can start to see already, therefore, that there is no real central place for accountability, and this mainly stems from the fact that, well, there's no national governing body, so how could there be? And so this means that a lot of the sort of accountability and a lot of the way that the scene works, it is very self-regulated, and it relies a lot on the tournament organisers, the publishers, and the developers of the esports titles to step in. And it also relies on the esports organisations involved, therefore, to make sure that they're upholding their reputations by competing legitimately and not trying to bend rules or do things that other people would deem, for lack of a better term I suppose, shady. As we continue to move left, we can see that basically everything on the table to do with domestic esports therefore fills into the esports leagues, both grassroots and professional. We've included other areas that we've covered in videos like the Newell, who also feed into grassroots and professional esports, and people like Yuki, who you can see at the top, who, while again they're not a governing body, they're an independent trade body, they do put into the esports scene through giving grants and things to the esports area, and also by having a very large vested interest in the video game industry itself, which obviously esports wouldn't exist without the video games industry anyway. One of the things I want to point out here is that actually there is a committee or council of esports teams that is forming. You can see this at the bottom left. Esports teams Endpoint, Excel, Fnatic, London Royal Ravens, London Spitfire, M&M Gaming, and Vex Gaming are all starting to put together to make what they want to call the UK Esports Team Committee. And the hopes of this committee is to provide a united front with thoughts, feelings, and advice that they can give to the government in hopes of developing the scene in future years to come. You can see that there's a lot of pressure moving forward from the industry to help to be recognised. So we're reaching a point now where we really want to think about the comparison that esports has to traditional sports in this country. And so if we do this at the highest level we possibly can, essentially in the public sector esports has, well, nothing. We don't have a governing body, we have very limited input from things like the DCMS, although there are meetings and people such as Chester King and other members of Fnatic and other organisations are putting things forward to help change that and to get us recognised. Additionally, we can also see that when it comes to things like the private area, esports is thriving. We have many companies, many tournament organisers, we've got developing opportunities, we have companies like Vulpine Esports, we've got a very large amount of LANs that operate, such as Insomnia, Epic LAN. We've recently had big time events come into the UK. The industry for esports privately is doing absolutely fine in this country, very similarly to sports, so in that respect, it's all good. In terms of supporting tertiary industry as well, and the amount of services being developed for things like coaching, for consultation, for vendors that sell equipment is more robust than ever. And so, as we can see, the private industry and tertiary industry of sports and esports are fine. Esports is really, really healthy in this country in terms of the industry around it. And it's just sort of this final push to help get it recognised, maybe not as a sport, but just as something that is, well, worthwhile. And this leads us nicely into the evaluation. Does the structure of sports and esports have to be the same? You may have your own opinion on this. British Esports certainly has theirs, and I certainly have mine. And where we stand on the channel is that there are many things that esports could learn from sport. Protections for players, standards that players should hold themselves up to, the ways that organisations and clubs should operate in order to be fair and compliant. These are all things that would be highly beneficial to the scene. But when you start thinking about things like franchising, complete control of a national governing body over the scene, well, put it this way, how happy are Riot going to be if British esports tell them how to run League of Legends? Well, I think the answer's not very. How happy are Epic going to be if British esports tell them how to run Rocket League championships? I think you know the answer to that one. And so, what we're really looking for here is a tailored approach to a unique ecosystem that's developed in the last 20 or 30 years. Esports really is unique, and the answer isn't so straightforward, and so that's why we probably haven't got one yet. I hope you enjoyed the video this week. We're going to do much more on the structure of sport and some deeper comparisons in the future. We are really trying hard to make high quality videos for this channel, and we've had a great response from students on the BTEC courses and outside of that. In the coming weeks, we're going to be doing some more content, some more Halo coaching content, as we've had some requests for that, and we're going to continue looking at Unit 2, as we've had some questions there. And we're also going to branch out in some other units as well, like the esports coaching unit, as a lot of our viewers seem to really enjoy the content that's related to skills in esports. So with that said, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like. If you're a returning viewer who's not subscribed yet, and 75% of you aren't, consider subscribing to help the channel out so more people can see content like this to help them learn. And this has been Vanadam. See you later.